what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it. So let's get into a little LSU, USC, speaking of things that you want to see. I mentioned returning production to start the show today. This is something that should bode well for LSU if we're trying to think about just numbers that maybe should give you some sort of hope. USC 99th in the country in returning production. Remember, the best way to think about that is a ton of returning production does not mean you will be good or bad. It's more of a better metric as to whether or not you will be improved. Will you be better? So if you're already bad, you may still be bad, just less bad.
Which chart do you go off? You go off Bills or do you go off Phil's? Bill or Phil?
I just use Bills S&P Plus.
Yeah, I use
but it's
Phil's.
also I'm not like super married to it as
Well, what'd you say LSU was?
60th.
Okay.
In returning production. They have 63% overall, 55 on offense, 71 on defense.
So the way that Phil still breaks it down, it's not returning production, it's actually experience chart. So also transfers that are coming in, how much experience they have. LSU's 99th in that metric.
I wonder how Connolly handles transfers. I'll try to look that up. But again, the thing about this
because they lost so much on offense, by the way, if you're wondering how are they that low. It takes into account yardage coming back. I mentioned tackles earlier, Letterman coming back, percentage of big plays, and different kind of metrics like that. That's how
So I guess my point with this is not for it to be the end-all, be-all. We are just looking for kind of general points about, what is the team bringing back. And USC, while both teams feel very similar in terms of, losing Heisman Trophy-winning quarterbacks, and LSU's at 55% of return to offense production, USC only at 51%. Defensively, however, LSU bringing back 71% of their production, USC 49%. Now, USC has tried to remake this defense with transfers, but they tried that 2 years ago. And I believe in D'Anton Lynn, but I think I believe more in a Blake Baker side in which you're going to have a majority familiar faces. Guys like Ashton Stamps, who had to take their licks last year. Guys like Greg Penn, who have had to work through all of the bad, but has still maintained and still kept this defense together. Guys like Braden Swinson, who maybe found some success within all the bad. And then obviously like Harold Perkins and whatnot. So I know that USC has talented transfers, but if you're telling me that you're remaking both stabs and both defenses top to bottom, I think the more familiar cast of characters at LSU becomes an advantage, especially when you consider that we know those guys are talented. Go look at where they were ranked coming out of high school. Go look at how we've seen them flash before. They just haven't been in the best position to unlock that talent. And so if the returning production is that much, go ahead, Jake.
No, sorry. I was looking at the depth chart for USC and something popped off.
What?
Just how many transfers they have that came in that are not currently slated to start.
Oh, really? Like some of the bigger names that people are
not even necessarily bigger names, but you bring this many people in. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was
No,
I was a general reaction of oh my gosh, I can't believe that many people. So I wonder what that group kind of looks like. I'm trying to pull it back up. What that group looks like whenever they throw the starters out there, because we've talked about it. I mean, right now I'm seeing 5 transfers that they brought in, all their seniors that aren't currently slated to start. That's just interesting to me. If you bring that much talent in and they're not right now, a good
sign or a bad sign?
I don't know. So I can't get the one way
it's kind
or the
of
other.
A good sign for
them.
But
offensively, it's somewhat similar. Now you're talking about receiver, and so you're going to have more of those guys play. But I mean, we're talking about a nose tackle, a Mike linebacker, a corner, safety, a nickel, just a lot of players that aren't slated to start right now that you brought in. They brought in a ton on defense.
So I guess we're like the connection that I'm attempting to make here is that, as we know, both defenses mirror each other in their complete makeover and overhaul. I think the more familiar cast of LSU bodes well. And I think that the key to this game is in the same, you saw a little bit of it on Saturday with Tech, make Miller Moss uncomfortable, right? It's like I told you, Georgia Tech early on, that first drive kind of set back a little bit, right? Let's play a little coverage, right? And what did DJU and company do? They ran all over them. They were right down the field, touchdown like it was nothing. Yeah. After that, they started saying, okay, you know what? We're gonna start to prioritize pressure and make him prove that he can beat us. And you say, oh, well, Miller Moss do have a bunch of he's not afraid to attack. Look what he did in the Louisville Bowl game. Okay, we'll do it again. Prove it to me. And then look, if you go after him and he proves to be able to handle the blitz, handle the pressure, and he proves to be able to beat you man to man, well, okay then. Take your L, adjust, do what you need to do. But in terms of how to approach the game, I want to get after that ass. Do not sit back and let them dictate to you. You dictate to them. And if you think about this defensive, this pass defense, LSU's greatest pass defense probably lies within the pass rush. Because it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Coverage gets better, the rush gets better, the coverage gets better. But LSU's strength likely lies with those ends and Harold Perkins and Weeks and the creativity of Blake Baker. And so that's something that Georgia Tech kind of inspired in me Saturday that I really want to see is an aggressive man-to-man, not playing coverage approach and make USC prove that they can overcome that.
So what's your expectation? Because I know you just mentioned Miller Moss and what he did against Louisville, but like a lot of those guys that he was throwing the football up to, Washington and Rice, I feel like that's been hand-waved this offseason because I hear so many people. Like Deuce Robinson is a tweener tight end receiver. He's a giant, big playability, no doubt about it. Now, he only had 16 catches, but he did have 351 yards, 22 yards per catch. But I keep hearing about Zachariah Branch over and over and over again. No matter who I talk to about USC, hey, you got to watch this guy. I'm not besmirching the young man, but he had 31 catches for 320, 10 yards a catch, 2 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Why am I being told to watch Zachariah Branch? And this is not rhetorical. I'm asking the question to watch this young man when he caught 30-something balls last year and there was no big play. I think his long last year was 35 yards.
No, he had the kick return against San Jose State to open the year.
He had the big game where he had like a touchdown catch and the return his first game.
Yes.
Everybody's like, this is a freshman. This is USC's next best receiver. And he was flashy in the return game. But yeah, like to Jake's point, like he wasn't that great of a receiver last year.
No, I think there's enough hive mind there where maybe like, because I'm with you. I agree. There's nothing on paper that would justify the amount of hype. And to me, it almost feels like when you're writing about this game, because everybody's guilty of this, you can't study everything in depth, right? And so at a certain point, you do start to rely on, okay, well, what's kind of the majority opinion? And if everybody's saying that Zachariah Branch has to be accounted for, if you're going to write or think about this game, you're going to think, oh, Zachariah Branch has to be accounted for. But like Jake said, you dive into the numbers, you're like, well, does he? And so I don't know, Jake, because I'm with you, but I don't know. Is there maybe a world out there where all of the information that's coming out of practice is such that he's having like a massive camp and like all the insiders are being told that he's going to be the guy.
This has been all off season. So I want to go back to like March.
I mean,
in April.
Even look at the bowl game. I think Miller Moss completed passes to like 11 or 12 different guys, which is actually maybe the most impressive part about that performance.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everything about it was impressive.
But Zachariah Branch is at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, just like to give you an idea, Brendan Rice had 45 catches and 800 yards. Again, Zachariah Branch 31 for 300 yards.
Yeah.
So like this offense had big play ability. Washington 18 per catch, Rice 18 per catch, Robinson 22 per catch. Even Dorian Singer, who's at Utah now, had 12 per catch. It's interesting because he's a slot guy. So maybe some of his numbers because they're throwing him nows and whips and drags and different things. But if he's going to be the go-to guy, they're going to have Robinson also step up to have the passing attack that I think a lot of people assume they're going to.
I think that.
Watch Branch go for like 300.
I was going to say, I think that because in theory he has that potential because of raw physical athletic ability. Maybe combined with an LSU second year, they might try to play man, and maybe they're not ready for that. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're kind of. Now I know what you're going to say. Kyron Lacey has a much better foundation statistically to build off of. Objectively true, but we're expecting Kyron Lacey to take a pretty large jump. Right, to start playing at a first-round NFL level the same way that wide receiver one has for LSU the last few years. In that same way, I'm guessing that they're expecting Branch to take a significant year two jump. Go from 300 to 800. Like if he reaches Rice's numbers, maybe that actually is equivalent to Kyron because Kyron's going to be expected to jump from like 500 to 1,000 or 600, whatever he had last season.
He is right at 600.
Yeah, so. I think it's just kind of projecting maybe a bit, but yeah, that is one of the bigger questions. Should we actually be uncomfortable about Branch, or we're gonna find out?
Yeah, and look, you can have the same conversation. Okay, well, what about LSU's other weapons? Well, it's like, Kyron Lacey had almost 19 yards per catch with the 30 receptions he had. He had 7 touchdowns. Okay, so that's more proven, certainly in the SEC. And then Chris Hilton's a part of that conversation, but you're counting on Hilton to be your 3 or 4. Now, a big piece to what you do, and I always go back to it, a la Benny Brazil in 2005, where when Benny caught it, every pass he caught was impactful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have C.J. Daniels, who had 1,000 yards on a team that went and played a New Year's Six bowl game. And so I understand, you could have some of the same conversation with LSU, but even that is more proven than what you have right now for USC. So they need somebody to step up in that receiver room because you lose your 2 biggest weapons, and then a guy like Dorian Singers now at Utah, and they're going to count on Woody Marks, the running back transfer from Mississippi State, to catch some passes. That's his MO. That is what he does, right? He had a year, I think, at Mississippi State. He caught 50 balls.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a part of it as well, but USC is going to need somebody to step up in that room because you got a young quarterback. Garrett Nussmeier has the ability to probably trust a Kyron Lacey more than Miller Moss can trust anybody else because, he saw Kyron Lacey with Jaden Daniels do it on some of the biggest stages.
And I feel like Garrett and Kyron have done it together as well already. I'm not sure. We have to go look up specifically their connections. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.